Hi dear viewers. Today I'm joining a conversation with Denise James, the author of Inner Life Right and quite a lot of other books that she has authored. It's quite a pleasure to have Denise on the show today. Welcome on the show, Denise.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Hello, viewers.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on P English Literature. Dennis, could you tell us about your book, Inner Life Right, a manifesto for reconnecting to love, renewing your mind,
Mhm.
and radiating your light? How does this book come about? What inspired you to write Inner Life Right?
Okay, so what inspired me to write Inner Life Rights is that I have a blog, plus I'm always writing and reflecting and having a take on things that happens in the world.
Oh,
Um, yeah, so I just wanted a body of work to reflect that, to reflect, you know, how I see things on important issues from my perspective. That's how it came about a little bit. But then um, what made me make it into a series
hmm.
following on from my first book, Back to Love, is that a friend of mine, she finished reading my first book, Back to Love, and she said that when she finished, she wanted something more because she knows me more from this time. And when I wrote Back to Love, I wrote it when I was 40. Yeah, and I'm 58 now, so it's been a while. So she almost wanted to know, where I am now. So then I decided to make Inner Life Right a series from Back to Love. So there's Back to Love and now there's Inner Life Rights. The difference between the two as well is Back to Love was very much about my having experienced trauma in my childhood, as well as just, the miseducation and the trauma that can come from black women, in these times. So that book is really my journey, coming through all that as I go back and kind of give myself a second chance when I became a mother at 21. Um, and yeah, and Inner Life Rights, it's more still kind of sharing that healing journey because sometimes when you've been through things that shapes you, it becomes your life work, but it also became my purpose. Through that, I felt like I wanted to help others come through because I felt I had. So Inner Life Right is still doing that kind of theme of healing and recovery, but it's about not just the personal, it's about the collective, about what we have to do as a people, I mean as Black people, as well as a people, a collective, the human race,
Hmm.
to address some of these issues in this time, especially coming out of COVID and what happened to George Floyd. That's another important thing that made me bring Inner Life Rights to print, going through COVID, and that all having front seat to the destructiveness and wickedness of racism, being captive audience at that time.
Wow. I really love the description of your book. It sounds very enthralling and very interesting to me. I love it. I love your description of
Yeah,
it. And I also
yeah.
see, yeah, and I also see, Dennis, that you have another book titled Back to Love. For readers who haven't read the book yet, and without giving too much away, could you could we have a sneak of what to expect picking up Back to Love?
Okay. So maybe should I read the back, what it says about the
That'll be
back?
fine. That'll be
Yeah.
fine. And
So
you can
it
show the
says,
book to the camera as well.
so this one's Back to Love.
Mm.
My first book, it was released 2021.
Oh, that's 2 years ago.
Okay. Yeah. And it says Back to Love is an autobiography that tells the story of a teenager's decision to have a child and the direction that decision swiftly takes her, a journey of emotional healing and self rediscovery. The text reads like a detective story, an inner world detective story as she begins to uncover and take more seriously the past experiences that had truly shaped her. Back to Love is therefore a triumph over adversity story, a simple yet extraordinary and deeply felt life story that pays homage and testimony to how past wrongs could be righted and how basic human and children rights and dreams can be recovered and made in this time possible.
Wow.
The main plot of the story rests on the young woman's decision to have a child, which also amounts to a decision for change and all that came to consequently entail. The decision to change, as well as its processes, also tells its own story. Because part of the story I'm also sharing about my healing and my discoveries through therapy, individual therapy as well as group therapy. Yeah, and the story, like I said, starts from when I was 18 and I became a mother. And the message is, just because you become a mother young, it doesn't mean that's the end of your life.
Absolutely.
That decision gave my life purpose and focus and direction.
Wow. That sounds like an impressive autobiography.
Yeah, it's, if I say so myself. It's very harrowing, but it's very real, and yeah, I had to kind of lay my heart and soul out there on the line just to give people courage to come forward to experience that and claim their healing so they may go on and lead lives that's more, fulfilling.
Wow. That's great. I so much love the sound of your books. They sound very interesting to me. I really love the sound of it. And I also want to ask you, Dennis, as authors, we all have different ways of reacting to feedbacks and criticism of our works. I'm curious to know your opinion about criticism. How do you react to negative criticism of your books if you've ever had one in time past?
Okay. Well, I haven't really. No, that would be a lie. I haven't had one from the public. I've had a few from the family.
Oh.
Because sometimes your story. Someone once said to me that if people wanted better parts in your story, they should have behaved better.
Wow.
But my I suppose my criticism came from within. I would say I think. A lot of the time when you've been through traumatic experiences and you dare to heal and still, fulfill some kind of greatness you believe is within you, sometimes when you do that, it can make you feel like a bit of an imposter.
Absolutely.
I believe great people like Maya Angelou struggled with that as well. And she had childhood trauma in her past. So I would say the criticism, and the fears mostly came from within myself, from voices of people who weren't very supportive of me. So it was about me kind of stilling and challenging and changing those inner demons within myself, and still journeying forth. I mean, my fears have never been present every step of my journey, but they've never stopped me. And also my guide, my intuition, my instruction as I journey from life always comes from within, from intuition. Even the word instruction, it's about going in. Wow. So I take my prompting and my guide and my instructions from getting quiet and really tuning into that still silent voice, which I think is our true spiritual essence and being. So I tend not to be swayed or worry too much about popular opinion. Popular opinion don't get us anywhere.
Wow, I love your take on this. I love the answers to this question. And it's quite lovely to hear what your take on criticism. Now, I'm also curious if you experienced any challenges while writing your book. I know it might be quite, very hard writing autobiography and things like that. And if there's any, could you share with us what challenge it is and how you ultimately overcame it?
Okay, so I've been writing since 9. So with my first book, Back to Love, I had many journals that I'd written, during those first 40 years of my life.
Yeah.
So I knew that I would go to my journals to create these to create my autobiography. So I didn't find that too difficult. And even with Inner Life Writes, I'm always writing and, reflecting on something that's going on in the world that I think perhaps needs to be looked at from another point of view. So my works has always been there, as well as I've always written poetry. So I really believe someone once said that, the story or whatever it is inside us. We just got to get quiet and to allow it to come through. So once again, I keep going back to being like inner directed. So it's not that I have a particular way where I brainstorm and do all this. It just comes through quite naturally, and I'm very intuitive. Yeah. So, but with both my books, what also help, my publishers is called my first book. They were called That Guy's House. Now they're called That Good House. So they're a self-publishing company, but they're quite well established. And they had kind of a program that helped, with deadlines and, with doing all the other bits like the typesetting and, all the other bits that, that I'm glad was I to have that taken off my plate.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Actually, I actually love the sound of that. That sounds very amazing to me. That's quite great. And at this point, I would love you to show the cover of Inner Life Right to the camera, just so viewers can see. Yeah, Inner Life
I don't know if
Right.
you can see it that great. So it's Inner Life Rights. It's a manifesto for reconnecting to love. Because to heal and to truly kind of express our true being, we have to come from the heart. We have to come from our authentic place. We have to come from the name we've been called to come
Absolutely
from. Yeah. And it says also for connecting to love, renewing your mind. I mean, we update things on a regular. We understand the principle of updating, computer software, but we forget about the mind. So we could be living in the past on a lot of things, or in the dark, and radiating your light, because it's hard to be who you are in this world, because this world is just full of so much advice.
Absolutely.
Ought to be can take a lot of that's why that subtitle's there. And I said it's a book of no historical, looking back on your past to unlearn and to discover who you truly are, what your message is, I think you need to do personally to come forward. The Sankofa board is also about collective responsibility, our past as a people, and going back to rediscover stolen and hidden treasures and bring that forward so that we may progress and go on. So that's why I chose the Sankofa bird.
I love it.
Yeah, for the cover. I'd love to read a little piece from this book if we get a chance to.
That would be great. That would be good. And I also want to ask you, apart from Inner Life Right and Back to Love, do you have any other works you've authored or currently working on?
Right. So I had MT, someone through certain things in his past, and he always wanted to write his story, and people had, suggested that he should. So together, we created his story.
Childhood
and
man.
it's called From Childhood, and the hood is capitalized because when your childhood is in a certain environment, you're gonna leave childhood now having to overcome and beat statistics. So it says from childhood to man, and it's slipping, falling, you can get up. So this is his story, and this was a collaboration because he was my mentor, and it was listening to his story that I would say to him, that needs to be in the book, this needs to be in the book. And it's really for Black men, boys to men, and for us getting some ideas about what possible solutions there could be to the pandemic, which has been going on for decades in the UK and in Jamaica and in America, of young Black boys killing each other.
Absolutely.
And it is a pandemic. If it was another group of people who was doing this to each other, we would have found solutions, I believe, more solutions long time ago. But it's up to us as a people, to take care of our own homes as well. Yeah, so that's something. A publisher.
Yeah, I love.
And I do want to write a third book as well.
You have a very interesting concept with your books. The themes have been amazing so far, and I want to say that these are great works. Thank you so much for having work in this genre and category. That's great. Next, I want to ask you, Dennis, as a published author, what sort of advice do you have for other writers who are still struggling with publishing a book like yours? What would you tell people in this category?
Okay, so I would say do your research. There's different, and there's a number of Black publishing, self-publishing companies that you can go to for advice. I can't remember one of them. But yeah, just Google, and there's a growing list now, so that you can get support, that even though you're going down the self-publication route, there's different publishing houses that could help you with that, so you're not totally on your own. Like I went with my one, which is That Guy's House or That Good's House. The publishing company my partner and my mentor went with was Conscious Dreams Publishing, and the person whose book company that is called Daniela, and she exists to really champion diverse writers. So that's another company you could approach, and they've got programs that you can buy into to whatever extent. I would say before you go off and do anything, the thing that's going to get you ready to conceive and grow and birth your book is self-belief.
Absolutely.
Self-belief. I mean, there's a quote from Maya Angelou, and she says, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you."
Absolutely. Wow.
So if there is a burning desire and passion, to write a book, and people have said this to you in the past, saying, "Go ahead." Go ahead. And to quote someone called David Henry Thoreau, he said, "Don't die with your music in you."
Absolutely.
Wherever your music is, your hair, to bring it through and to dance to that tune, So don't die with your music in you. One life to live it fully and well.
Oh, wow. I love this advice.
Yeah.
I love this advice. They are full of a lot of information, It's a very great thing. And if a writer out there, something keep telling you in your head, you have to produce a book. You have to tell the story out. Please go ahead and write it. Don't die with that story in you. You have to tell it out.
Exactly. Listen to that inner voice.
It keeps telling you, you have to write this book. Write this book. Listen to the voice and follow it.
Exactly. Wow, and surround yourself with people who, support your dream. Don't, sometimes in life, the external world, the noisy people, the opinionated people, they've got so much to say, but, they're the tiny-hearted. They're not out there doing anything, but they're sitting back comfortable, critiquing those who are.
Absolutely.
So don't pay them any mind.
At all. I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for adding this. Now, I also like to ask you, is there anything you would love to share with the viewers about your books that we couldn't mention in this interview? I'd love the viewers to know.
Well, with the Inner Life Rights, this was just released in April. The wonderful thing about it is you don't have to read it from the beginning to end. You can pick it up anywhere, and read it and get a lot of information from it. But it's not a rush read. If you're really interested in getting some answers to some really difficult questions, if you're really interested in looking yourself squarely in the mirror and doing the change you need to do, to make a difference, then this is the book for you. Yeah. It's one of those books that you have to read and sit down with and digest it.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's quite amazing. And on what platform can viewers get a copy of your book in case we have people who are interested in getting a copy?
Okay. So if you Google me, everything about me would come up, because I'm also, as well as an author, I'm a psychotherapist. I was a psychotherapist first. It's when I was doing my own healing before I wrote the book Back to Love, that I was having therapy, and it helped me so much. And I said to myself, yes, this is my calling. This is what I want to be able to give to people. Yeah. So yes, I'm a psychotherapist as well. But yeah, you can get both my books at major as well as the smaller book selling outlets like Amazon UK.com, Barnes and Noble, Waterstones, Book Depository. Loads of them. Just Google. Yeah, but that's a few that I've mentioned just there.
That's great. And I've left a link in the description part of this interview to Denise James book outlet on Amazon, on Barnes and Nobles, and other platforms that it's available on for purchase. So thank you so much, Denise, for accepting the invitation to be featured on P English Literature. It's a pleasure having you on the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Peter. Could I share a poem before I go?
Yeah, we can do that.
It kind of brings everything together that
absolutely. That would be great.
About, yeah.
Yeah, we have some
and this book is taken from Inner Life Rights, because I don't know if I mentioned. So it's the book is there's reflections and her essays, but I call them her says, as well as poems. So it's a mixture.
Let's do that.
So I'm going to read one of the poems, and it's entitled "Why."
Why?
Yeah. So I had a dream last night that I died, and why, when I was alive, I wasn't myself, and all the excuses that had once served me well now didn't mean a thing. Because in truth, I never dared go out on that limb. To the place the Lord later shared held a most precious sweet fruits, a place where I never could lose. I cried that night, deep, bitter tears of regret, then tears of joy when I arose and realized there was still time yet.
Wow.
And never again did I forget to remember myself, respond to the call to share and express those God-given talents. We've all got those God-given talents, and we're here to release them, share them, express them. That's what you do here on your platform, isn't it? You're a lover of literature. Yeah.
Wow, that's an amazing recitation. I love everything about it. The lyrics, the lines are quite deep and very educative, quite didactic, and they are reality actually, the deep realities of life. So thank you so much for that amazing recitation. and at least, sharing just so we can have an idea of what your work is all about. That's quite great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Also, you can find me. I've got a YouTube channel, but like I said, if you Google it, it would all come up. But my YouTube
That
channel
would be
is
great.
at Inner Life Rise.
I left a link also in the description part to that for some people to check up and give us some subscription stuff.
Yes, and begin the journey to a more enriching and joyful life.
Absolutely. So
Whatever mess is happening in the world.
oh yeah. So thank you so much, Dennis. It was great having this conversation with you.
You're welcome, Peter. And like I said, thanks for having me on and on your platform and sharing a bit of my work and what I do.
Yeah.